I'm very good. I'm very good. How are you today?
I'm good. Welcome back from the summer.
Well, yeah. Well, the summer, it never really feels like it ends in the UK.
Oh,
It's just one constant summer sunshine all the time,
oh,
yeah.
sure, sure. Warm and beachy, right.
Yeah.
Well, I apologize for my appearance today. Today's a scrunchy day, as I call them. It's a busy, get stuff done, lots of things happening and moving. Plus, I went to the gym. So I'm just happy
Good for
in
you.
general.
Yeah.
Back to basics as we'll talk about today. But I'm excited to introduce an old friend, Andrew, to one of my newer-ish friends. Um, Ja- Jane Zareski, how are you? How are you? We haven't worked together for a couple years, but
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, we worked together a couple years on a strategic plan. Yeah, it's great to be here.
right.
Thank you so much for having me.
And you have recently made the transition from dedicated in-house staff to an association management company.
That's right. Yeah, so I was at a standalone and I've really spent my career in standalone associations, but now I'm an account executive with association management strategies in a Ethereal company, which is an AMC. So it's great to be there.
Well, congratulations
Thank you
on
so
that
much.
transition. I know people kind of go back and forth, and maybe this transition has really given you the perspective necessary to become an expert in our topic today, which is, membership campaigns. Membership campaigns in a less than ideal world, whether it's economic or industry specific. I can't wait to talk to you about your recent article, your Gold Circle Award. You are you're the membership person now. This is it. This is it. We need you. We need clarity. Andrew needs all the clarity about how to grow membership associations.
Do you know, it's funny, it's funny you mentioned that membership. When I was a chief executive, people used to say to me, "How often do you meet members?" I'd be like, "Never." I was never interested in members.
What?
I
Tell
know,
us.
I know, which is why this is such an interesting conversation for me because I was like, well, other people are specialists in member engagement. I wasn't, not. So I was fascinated. I'm always fascinated to learn more about, you know, creative ways in which we can engage members because I think it's become such a, I think with technology moving so very quickly, I think it's both a blessing and a curse, isn't it? I think
Yeah.
there's so many ways you can reach people, almost to the point where there's too many ways to reach people. So I'm always fascinated to hear how campaigns can be effective.
No,
Well,
I'm
and
with you for that. Yeah.
go ahead. No, I'm sorry. I was just going to say you wrote an article this summer, and that's kind of how you and I got back in touch.
Mhm.
And I really appreciated it because it wasn't all the shiny, new, fancy things. It was, I mean, you literally called it back to basics, how associations can strengthen membership in uncertain times. And I love that. I mean, let's not look for the new, let's not look for the sparkly, let's not be distracted. Let's get in there and do what's necessary. What brought you to writing that article, which I know
Mm.
gave five specific steps to strengthening membership? How'd you get there? Was it being at the AMC or was it just kind of your whole journey?
It is a little bit of both. I think that certainly whether or not my title has said membership, throughout my career, it's definitely been a big part of what I've done, whether it's stakeholder engagement or serving in other roles. But I think that, it's been a little bit of a turbulent year economically. And I think that it was something that I definitely wanted to bring to my clients and something that I really drew upon my past experiences. How do we make sure we have a strong membership base? Not just this year, but moving forward, because we want to make sure that we leverage all of our resources we can have a strong future. And for me, it's always about going back to basics. And maybe that's part of my CAE training or what it is to really just do the research first, but I think I always want to go back and see like let's lay the foundation for a good work before we try something new and exciting and innovative. And honestly, Elisa and Andrew, I was listening to some of your podcasts earlier, and what really kind of struck me
Uh-oh.
was doing the donkey work, which I felt like
Oh,
Oh,
this is sort of drew upon because sometimes it is
oh,
about the implementation and not necessarily the innovation. So I thought this was maybe apropos.
that one may haunt us. That one may haunt us. But irrespective of what it's called on either side of the pond, you've always had great
mm,
results. I mean, between your 3% growth that helped you win a Gold Circle Award, um, it's worked for you. You have a career of generating membership results from these back to basics core core strategies. Tell me about the Gold Circle Awards. What made that year special? What tactics worked for you? I was a Gold Circle Award judge. I've never applied, but how was that whole process?
Yeah, so that was great. I have to give a lot of credit to, this is when I was in a standalone association. This is with the American Chiropractic Association. But I worked closely with the David James Group, which is a membership consultant. So they do membership and marketing consultant. And a lot of what they do is focused in the healthcare space, but they also dabble in other areas. And honestly, they were the impetus to apply because we worked with them on a really great campaign. And there were some really fun, innovative things that we did that we hadn't done before, whether it was retargeting or some interesting social media videos. But a lot of it was still, honestly, going back to what is easiest for the member, what is easiest for the staff. And I think a big part of where we saw some successes with our When a Body Becomes One campaign with the American Chiropractic Association was making it easy for people to join. When I was at the standalone association, it was a little bit unwieldy to create an account, to add your information, to verify everything. So what we did was we created a microsite that honestly just we collected the basics. Your name, your company, and your credit card information. Anything else we could follow up with later because we just wanted to make it a simple, streamlined process. You didn't have to create the account. We did all of that for the member on the back end. So I think really streamlining the process and just simplifying. That's what really sort of helped us see some success with that.
Well, and I think about associations where the membership have to meet certain criteria, either by having a license or having a certain degree or having reached a certain standard. Can you still do that? Can you still make it easy when someone has to prove that they've met certain marks?
Yeah, I think so. I think that the easiest thing to do, I think that's a really good question because, there are stringent membership requirements with some organizations. And I think the easiest thing to do is if they are interested, take them at their word and follow up on the other items later. I think that it's okay to put the burden of proof, honestly, sometimes on the membership staff to make sure that those requirements are made. Because again, you don't want to make it so complicated that you're turning them off at that decision point process.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think I think these days you have no option really. You have to make it, regardless of whether membership requires credentials or you require credentials to be a member or vice versa. I think you have to just make it almost as one click as possible now. We see that on even, we take a step back, we talk in wider sort of a wider digital context. More and more and more people we're not seeing click-throughs on member websites anymore because if I can't find it, what the information I'm looking for within that one click, they drop off. I think if we have any kind of process that requires members to be uploading copious amounts of data, often data that I think a lot of organizations don't know why they're even asking for that data a lot of the time. I think it's inexcusable now. I think the risks of losing potential members is far, far greater than the subsequent onus of responsibility, the administrative burden that subsequently will follow once you've hooked those members. I think you simply have to now.
But you in Jane's article, she gave these five essentials. And the
Mm,
fifth, maybe the most important to what you had just mentioned, was be flexible.
mm,
And I appreciate that. But where there is then a contradiction is her number one core essential, which was get your data correct. Have
hmm
good data, check your data, recheck your data. So the more you're going back and having to fill in the gaps or have staff repopulate or have additional conversations, track these people down again, aren't you somewhat undermining the data integrity?
Yeah, I think that honestly, I don't think you're necessarily undermining the data integrity. You're trust but verify. So I think that you're getting those pieces of information that were maybe felt extraneous during the membership application process. And you are building another touch point. into that membership process. So making sure that you have all of that correct information. So I think that you're right. The data does need to be accurate, but the data doesn't always need to come just from the member. It can come from the staff. So I think in a way, you are one, building that touch point again, but by checking and rechecking that data, you're just making sure that your lists are clean. And that way that when you do your outreach for renewals, for engagement, you're making sure that you have the correct information. So I don't know if that answers the question for you, if I sort of cleared up
Yeah,
that contradiction,
I mean,
but
it's none of them are ideal. We
yeah,
pretend that like we can get to perfect data at some point, and it's
right.
going to be a moving target. Go ahead, Andrew.
Well, no, yeah, I mean that's a fair point. No one's ever going to have 100% accurate data, regardless, because we deal with members, and members change careers, change email addresses, change their names. So I think you're never ever going to have a clean, perfect clean data set. But actually, I think there's also, I think the point you're making there about it's just understanding the process in a different way. We don't, yes, it's potentially an elongated process, what we're describing here. Yeah, we're hooking and then we're looking to secure the data afterwards.
Mhm.
Okay. I don't necessarily think it undermines any quality. It's just a different way of understanding what resource efficiency looks like. We don't have to have the burden of everything uploaded in one go at the front end.
Right.
Otherwise, it never ever, we're never ever going to come back and revisit this process. I just think it's a different way of looking at things.
Yeah.
And I would much rather hook the member, engage with the individual, and then subsequently worry about data than I am so concerned with quality of data and having quantity of data up front that I then miss out on potentially having a more focused, targeted conversation with that potential member.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
Well, and maybe it all serves having these conversations, having this line of communication, letting them know that we care, that we want their accurate
Mm, mm,
information,
hmm.
gives us that many more opportunities to focus on their benefits, on what value is, and demonstrating our sincere interest in getting their correct information.
And to engage as well.
Human
Yeah.
conversations are kind of antique and fun these days. It's like a throwback when you pick up the phone and someone
Yeah.
actually answers and you get to have a
Yeah,
conversation.
No,
it's not a bad idea. Actually, yeah, as a vehicle for then subsequently saying, brilliant, we're so pleased you've joined, and now we're going to have a chat, and I'm going to learn a bit more about you, and you're going to feel immediately like you're part of this community and that we
Right.
care. It's not a bad vehicle actually for killing a couple of birds with the same stone.
yeah, and I think that when I drafted this article earlier this summer, in my mind, I sort of had the view of individual societies, individual members doing this and having those one-on-one conversations. But in my role now, I work with company members, and I think it actually applies in the same way.
Yeah.
These people who work in these companies are very, very busy. They don't have the time to give me a list of 50 different people and their roles and what committees and what task forces would be best for them during the join process. We can sort of do a trickle and get that information as we go. But, to both of your points, it's let's get them hooked. Let's get them in the door, start showing some immediate value of membership. We can worry about some of those back end things later.
Yeah, drilling down into those member company profiles, I mean, that's
Mm, hmm.
Right.
a whole nother situation where we want to demonstrate to the decision maker that there is great value in the membership because the entire company, the entire firm can take advantage of certain benefits. But keeping an updated roster of who all those potential
Mm,
beneficiaries may be is I don't
yeah.
know how you set a goal on that. I know many companies or many organizations are trying to drill deeper into their member
Mhm.
companies, and there's always a first place to start, but it's a never ending thing. So
Oh,
these
yeah.
these essential pieces of make it easy, commit to good data, communicate value. I mean, these are not strategic goals.
Mm,
These are forever efforts,
Right.
and they can't just be a month before renewal or when you're 30 days in the rears. So, how do you now with your clients or in your previous life, how do you keep that ongoing commitment to some of these core efforts?
I think that what's really helped is that we keep a dashboard, like a true dashboard on our strategic items of goals that we want to do throughout the year, but also the tactical things that we need to get done. And I think that that is really important so that we're always keeping our member value front and center. So what are we doing to not only provide member value, but to communicate member value? We
Yeah.
know that data integrity is important. So have we done our quarterly or biannual campaign of what we need to do to update people's data? Are we looking at the join process? Are we going through it a couple times a year, seeing is there anything that we can improve, anything to streamline? So I think by having that dashboard that shows our strategic items that sort of aligns with our strategic plan is really, really important, but
Yeah.
not losing sight of those tactical things that we need to do to keep the organization running. And sometimes that's the first thing that the member sees or the member remembers if they have a good experience or a bad experience. It's always really important to keep those things
Yeah.
just as front and center.
So you mentioned the gold circle entry was about retargeting.
Mhm.
And we talk about recruitment and retention and maybe retargeting is the third R in that equation. What did that mean for you guys and what did it look like? What did it result in?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I think what was interesting, this is with the American Chiropractic Association, is that there is such a distinct and finite universe of members.
Yeah.
there are X number of chiropractors in the country, and that is the universe. So those are the people that could join, those are the people that might be interested in joining. So I think that, what we did is we kind of took the term renewal out of the equation. Everybody is a potential recruit. So whether or not that they've been a member or not, if
Okay.
they had a good experience, they had a bad experience, whether or not they were a member now, then they are a prospect for us. So I think what we did is, we were able to sort of drill down on that universe. We did lookalike profiles in LinkedIn. We did a lot of retargeting on our social media. And then we did a lot of surveys and built that microsite that sort of really appealed to the top key things that appealed to these prospective members. And we were able this is all during the pandemic, able to grow about 3%. So we had this
Okay.
multi-pronged
Wow.
campaign, but we did not, and like sort of going back to the basics, we didn't lose sight of what we needed to do, on a day-to-day basis because we made calls. We took phone lists. These are people that were members. These are people that were in danger of maybe not renewing. And we made calls. How are you feeling about your membership? What's going on in your world? How can we help? Are you having financial difficulties? Let us see what we can do to sort of work with you on a dues basis. And then let's see what sort of resources we can match up that we already have with some of the issues you're facing in your profession right now. So I think that, going back to some of those very, very basic things of that human touch that you just mentioned. Like,
Mm.
we don't really get a lot of phone calls anymore. We did that, to make sure that people knew that we were here.
What type of
Well,
capacity? Oh, sorry, Elisa. Sorry, I was going
no,
to say,
go ahead.
what type of capacity does that take?
It takes a lot of capacity, honestly, and this was a small team. So on the membership team, we had 3 people, and we would just have calls lists of hundreds of people, and we would just have to pound through those calls. And a lot of times you don't get the member themselves, especially when you're working in something in
Yeah.
the medical
Hmm.
profession. There's a lot of
Yeah.
gatekeeping. There's a lot of like you might get someone at the front desk, and that's in a lot of different professions. But that's still a touch. And that person who answers the phone might
Yeah.
not be the member, but they ultimately, honestly, might be some of the part of the decision-making process of renewing that membership.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I love, you think about how we're all treated as customers, whether it's our phone plans or our Wi-Fi or cable TV or whatever. All the sales, all the perks go to the new members, go to the new
Yeah,
customers.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
love this idea of everyone is new to us. We care about all of you. Everyone's being recruited. Everyone's
right.
being wooed and served at the highest level. We're not just baiting the newbies in and then we'll forget about you once you're in. I love that approach,
Hmm.
and I think we as membership organizations we probably could learn a lot more from consumer consumer environments. And we hear about the churn. We know when we give a big discount on something, or you make the meeting free, or whatever it may be, then you get that drop when they're done with that benefit. So I like the idea of you're always new to us. You're always a
Mm.
part of this
No, I like
community. We're
that.
always
Yeah.
recruiting.
Hmm.
Renewal in itself sounds stagnant. It
Right.
Yeah.
sounds
Sounds
repetition.
optional. It sounds
It
optional. It
does. It
sounds like
does.
Right.
you can opt out. Well, no, you're a member. We're all part of this community. You stay in this community regardless of what time of year it is, how when you joined, and I think that's it's a strong case actually for actually doing away with the concept of an annual renewal.
Mhm.
I think you join. I mean, I think there's a yeah. Like I say, because I'm not a member engagement specialist, it's not something I spend a
No,
lot
you're
of time
not.
thinking around. Yeah, all right, okay, don't have to label it. All right, it's not that funny that I'm not very good at engaging with members. I just think it's a really interesting concept. Because again,
My
that
only
lends
fear,
well, it lends
it's
itself to bigger or not bigger, a different or wider business issues around because one of the massive headaches that a lot of leadership teams and management teams have is you're looking at budget projections and you've always got this kind of this wall. Well, that's our renewal period, and we use it almost as a kind of it's all or nothing. If we hit these targets, brilliant, but actually, and if we don't, oh my god, we're in jeopardy. I think removing the concept of renewal and just having recruitment and then demonstrating value
all the time. Yeah.
all the time means I think that in terms of then from a kind of running the business of the association becomes a lot I think it becomes a lot more streamlined and less sort of chunked out into these artificial sort of barriers or blockers that we put in our way. I don't know. I'm thinking about it out loud. It could be complete nonsense. Probably is,
Well,
but you know.
maybe back in the day, maybe back in the COVID day, people answered their phones.
Yeah.
My only fear is, getting even a friend or a family member to pick up the phone. Everybody
Mm-hmm.
just wants a text or just send me an email, whatever it may be. So while you're trying to be personable, you're
That's a
trying
good
to
point.
have a relationship. Um, there's time, there's competition for every moment of their day. How are you still comfortable being that reliant on an outreach channel like a phone call?
I think that, you have to know what your members respond to. And, and to be fair, we did get a lot of just messages and or voicemails. And I think that that's fine too, because like even if we didn't have that one-on-one conversation, they still knew. And the population for the standalone association I was at, the American Chiropractic Association, they did really respond to phone calls. But you have to know your members. But in the same way that, maybe it's a population that responds better to a text or an email in that, I think on that same token, though, you have to think about, are you not getting the results that you want sending the texts or the emails? Why not try something different, even if
Mm,
that something different is something
yeah.
that's old?
And
I
is
think there's no harm in trying that. Maybe there's
yeah,
some staff resource time associated with it, but
yeah.
if it makes an impact, it makes an impact.
And sometimes it's really good data to know. Oh, actually, we tried
Mhm.
that exercise. Three-quarters of our members don't pick up the phone. Right. Okay. Well, that's
Mhm.
good data. That's good intelligence to understand. Right. Okay. Well, now on our next campaign, we need to think of a different
Yeah,
approach. Absolutely. You don't know unless you've asked people explicitly what's your contact preferences. We don't know. So I
right.
think sometimes you just have to go through the exercise to then build your own sort of internal data set that says, right, okay, this is working, this isn't working. Absolutely.
You have these five essentials, and I believe these are the core pillars of member engagement. The communicating value, keep recruiting, make it easy, and be flexible, and the data piece. Do we have to presume though that the ways that we execute on these principles, the way that we pursue these core strategies are going to change? I mean, I would hate to pay for either a telemarketer or my staff to call through my entire membership before I figure out whether or not they'll answer the phone. So I don't know if we need to fail or fail or succeed more quickly, or we need to be experimenting with different things all the time to see what the changes are going to be. I mean, our multi-generation memberships want different things in different ways. How
Right.
do you know what the next mechanism of outreach and communication are going to be for your membership?
Yeah, I think that, I don't know if I do know, what the next mechanism of our communication outreach is for your membership. I think it's really important to stay in touch with your membership. And that I mean to continually ask them what they want. What do they want from their value of membership, but also how do they want to hear from us, I think is equally important. I think that there is real value in calling through your whole membership list and see how it goes, but maybe you go through 20% of it and you don't get the results and you have to pivot. I think it all sort of goes back to that be flexible. What is going to work for you and what do you have the sort of resource to do? If you're not getting the results and it's just being a drag on staff time and resource and maybe some sort of financial component, then pivot. I think that we just don't know what we want from our members until we try.
Yeah, and I think, excuse me, I think that's a really good point. One of the things that I don't see enough of, is piloting anymore. I think I
Mhm.
used to see a lot more of it, people where we would say, okay, we're gonna sample 10, 15, 20% of our membership. We're going to use this as a pilot. If we see traction with it, brilliant. Um, if we don't, then as you say, we'll pivot. And I think I'd like to see more of that actually, the more of that flexibility, because I think there's the whole culture around, fail fast, fail often, which is great if you're
That's
a
just a bumper sticker.
if you're a startup, AI over in California or whatever, and you can afford to fail fast, fail often. But we can't. We can't because all of everything is resource intensive. That's just the nature of the beast in membership. We're always grossly under resourced. Always. There's no hide. It doesn't matter how big we are. We always need more resource. So I think, yeah, I think I'd like to see so much more of what you described there in terms of when you talk about flexibility, the ability to pilot and pivot is so, I think, is so successful to every sort of all aspects of business development, which is great.
Well, I
Sorry.
wonder now,
Oh, go on.
you have different kinds of members now. Now that you're on the AMC side, you have accounts, you have associations. Does your membership mindset help you serve in that capacity? I mean, you just have different clients now. They're not members, they're full-fledged associations. How is that going? How has that expanded your concept of recruitment and service and communicating value?
Yeah, I can bring that membership mindset to the AMC model in a couple different ways. One, I hope I'm bringing my expertise to my clients and helping them themselves recruit the members and bring them in and show that communication, the value of, or communicate the value of membership within those associations that I help manage. But I also bring that membership mindset into the AMC model itself. I know that the clients are the lifeblood of this AMC, and we have to bring that member service mindset into to making sure that the clients know that they themselves are valued and that they're special, and we are here to help support their successes, to facilitate their goals. So I think I'm bringing that membership mindset to the association itself, but also to the AMC model. I think it's really important to sort of to keep that dichotomy in play. It's been a lot of fun going from a standalone to an AMC and learning so quickly how other organizations do things and begging and borrowing and stealing what works for other associations and immediately being able to sort of apply that to my own clients. It's been great.
So at this mid-year mark, it's September. We have just really a few months left in the year. What are you telling your clients in terms of the final push or what success in the membership year of 2025 should look like? How are you either recalibrating or setting expectations for the remainder of 2025?
Yeah, I mean, I think that you said it right there. It's setting expectations. I'm really, really transparent with my clients in every aspect of the business that we run as a nonprofit for each of the associations. But I think showing exactly with where we are. Here's how many members that we still have. Here's how many that have left us this year, and here's how many we have recruited. This is our goal. Are we going to reach our goal? Maybe, maybe not. What can we do to get as close as possible? But I think transparency is key. Whether you're at an AMC or a standalone, just making sure that the leaders and honestly your whole team, your staff knows that where you are on the membership benchmark because maybe one person has that title of membership, but really it's the responsibility of the entire organization to make sure that we get as close to those membership goals as possible.
Well, Jane, thank you so much for joining us, for taking some time out of your busy AMC day. We appreciate it. It's great to see you again. Andrew, do you have any questions about member engagement before we
Oh,
go?
uh, so
Now that you're
rude.
learning to appreciate
You're
the
so
member
rude.
and you want to visit members and you
I
love
never,
membership,
ever, ever said I appreciated or want to visit any members. I never said that.
I just want to make sure you're still in your same position as you were before. So
But it was
Jane and
incredibly
I have
helpful.
done nothing to sway you.
Exactly.
Nothing to sway you.
Well, thank you so much. I really appreciated the chance to be here today.
Absolutely. And we will
Thank you,
include
Jane.
a link to your article in the show notes so everyone can
Hmm.
check that out. And I'm excited to see what comes next. And maybe some of your clients will be submitting for Gold Circle Awards themselves, and we can learn the inside outs of all those campaigns you guys are currently working on. So thank you so much for joining us. And until next time, put your members, and your mission first.